Welcome to the Headless Giant Podcast. This is another Headless Giant Magical Mailbag, but we have a special guest today. We got Luemas from the Chant It Down Podcast. So, this is my host, Nick, from the Occult Rejects. Go ahead and tell him what you got coming up, and then we'll go over to Luemas.
What's going on, everybody? How is it? Thank you very much for having me on again. I always enjoy doing this show every week. We just actually, me and Headless just did a live show. So after this, if you didn't catch it, go over there to Occult Rejects. Oh, it was on your show too, right? You streamed it out. Check it out on Headless's channel himself. And we just had the Library of the Untold on. One thing, you know what? I'll not tweet it out. I'll tease it out just here, and I'm not going to say anything on my show. Oh, you know what? It sucks. You're not going to be here unless you can get off or you can get home early. Next Monday at 2:00, we got Greg Carwood coming on the Occult Rejects.
Wow.
Yeah. We got. I pulled that off. I must use some magic for that one. So we got him coming on. Yeah, we got him coming on. So next Monday. So we can check that out. And I'm sure we have. Let me see what we got dropping next week too. I'm sure there's probably something that me and Headless are into together. The Strange Brew podcast. Were you on that with us?
Yes, I was.
Got that dropping this week. We got the Pole Shift with Ricardo. We got that dropping this weekend too. That my man Headless was there as well. And then next week, unfortunately, we have Rudolph Steiner and Growing Up Mormon with Carl Crusher. But this weekend we got a bunch of stuff with me and Headless on it.
Very nice, very nice. Luemas, tell them where they can find you.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. And my podcast is Chant It Down Podcast. Any podcast player out there, I got videos on Rumble, and I got a YouTube channel, Chant It Down, and all the Instagram and X and Telegram. I'm not a very busy person on social media, but that's my podcast. I'm celebrating 12 years now of Chant It Down next month. So lots of stuff in there. No episode's an old episode. Been covering timeless stuff for a long time. So, yeah.
Very nice. So what we have in the mailbag today is we got two. So first one is from Jose Martinez, and it says, "Hey Headless, please excuse my ignorance on the proper place to send this because I'm aware this is your story spot, but I couldn't figure out which email to address it to. Now this is called Image of a Creature. Or Occult Rejects might receive this. I was planning on just sending it to you and then the image and a short message, but then I realized to understand where I'm going with this, it'd be better to also include a podcast episode I saw it on." So he says, which would preface how this could relate to the spider symbolism you guys drop. So he says, hopefully I copied the link correctly, but if not, for the podcast, here paranormal video, most current, called Beltane, Wendigos and Baal. The picture is what looks like a deer. I drew the lines on the immediate effect, but that time of year is also pertinent. The property is Space Wolf Research, which fences up against Skinwalker Ranch. So he's got an image, and I'm going to save the photo and send it over so you can see what he's talking about. Apparently it's a Wendigo, I guess. He copied it over.
We got evidence of a Wendigo?
Yeah. From Space Wolf Research. So that's the one adjacent to the...
Oh, who owns that piece of property? I think I know who this guy is, Space Wolf Research.
Yeah, he's pretty well known.
Yeah, his story, he's got some interesting stories, actually. Yeah. You know, it's...
So it's kind of a deer. Now, if you know the story behind the Wendigo, basically it's kind of a Native American zombie type thing. And so this was... an image, I guess, he caught on their stream or something, or one of these trail cams. And it looks a little bit like a deer, but the back end of it definitely has a distinct shape to it. Now, the Wendigo is kind of like, it's the embodiment of a wasting disease mixed with some sort of a cannibalistic human shapeshifter. And I know it's very prominent in this area. You've got a lot of different Wendigo type ideas there. I'm not really seeing it too much, but what do you guys think?
It's pretty blurry.
Yeah.
Another blurry creature. Well, you know, we live in a blurry world, so
it could be there or it could not be there, you know.
So we could have sneezed.
Yeah.
Right. So I've got another one from
deer grazing.
What's that?
Somebody said a deer grazing. Yeah.
Looks a little bit like that, but the back end had something going on with it. Deer grazing, yeah. So it says, this is from Angela. It says, I've been between two military bases in Northwest Florida over the past 2 years. I have seen some odd things happen. In late 2022, I was in my hot tub late at night and I saw a formation in the sky. I believe it was drones practicing. It was 12 by 12 lights in the sky, moving in sync in different directions. On other occasions, I have seen what looks like a video game in the sky with lights zipping around and chasing each other. I know that those videos of the drone shows from China really has our military spooked, because nothing is more horrific to them than the idea of having a drone swarm over a military base and having everybody die before anybody knows what's going on. So if they're practicing with drones out there, I would not be surprised. It says, on other occasions, I have seen what looks like a video game in the sky with lights zipping around and chasing each other. Twice, I have seen cylinder-looking balls of fire falling from the sky very low. The first one scared me, and I was literally waiting for some creature to come around the corner. The second one changed colors as it burned out. I saw green and blue color. My suspicion is that these are plasma technology used by the military, but that's just a guess. I've seen, because I work very early in the morning doing trucking, and I have seen the most magnificent, meteorites as they're entering the atmosphere, and they change all sorts of different colors. I've seen big old blue ones and green ones, and I know that based off of how they're hitting the atmosphere and what they're made of, you get all sorts of different colors with them. This one other occasion, a few years ago, I was walking my dog in the afternoon, and I heard the loudest engine noise, and it sounded like it was going straight up, but I could not see a thing. I enjoy your show, and I hope you enjoy my stories. Angela D. So those are the two. All sorts of weird phenomena.
I saw some weird stuff last week in the sky. It wasn't a video game, but I see a lot of stuff, but I saw, I guess, a UFO. It flashed at me, like it went boom, big beam at me. And then I noticed there was a fleet behind it, and there was a bunch of things kind of going like this, and they all went into one format of one long fleet. And it was really, because you don't usually see things kind of going like that. Definitely wasn't satellites, but I see stuff all the time, so I documented it. Couldn't film it, it was just too high up, but yeah, looked like a video game a little bit too.
Right. And what a lot of times people will see is the SpaceX satellites that are sort of all moving in a line across the sky. And if they don't change direction, it's probably a satellite. But once they start changing direction, you got to really pay attention, because there's a high probability that that's unidentified aerial phenomena or UFOs. And the more you pay attention, the more you'll see. So definitely get out there and start looking up, because you never know what's going on. So, Luemas, let's talk about some of your experiences, some of the things you've done.
Well, I just completed a documentary in March called Sacred Sight, and it's Sight with Your Eyes. I started it. I got inspired when I went to Egypt. I wanted to do a documentary about our ancient past, but with my own expertise of all the stuff that I've gathered in all these years doing podcasts and before. I didn't want to just make it like every other documentary about all this stuff. So it kind of opened up before me, and I live in Hawaii. So a friend of mine's like, there's this book that has someone found a pyramid here in Hawaii. I'm like, really? Okay, I'll come over. We'll do it. Well, it wasn't that simple of a mission. We got rained out, but it sent me down the rabbit hole of all kinds of different ancient structures that people don't know about, that are part of this once global civilization we had, where people made megaliths and pyramids. It sent me down to Australia. It sent me, I went to like the main spots too, like Stonehenge and Avebury Henge, and it just brought me on a journey, and it took me, quite a couple of years, but I finally completed it in March. And that's the biggest thing I got going on right now, but it's pretty big. And these are like kind of small but groundbreaking kind of discoveries, because it's like these are, it's like we're finding things that the archaeologists are not looking for, and people aren't looking in these spots to think that there was communication across the world, where people were building pyramids all over the place, and there are more places than people think. And these are the first ones here in Hawaii. So that's kind of the big thing I've been doing lately. I call it sacred sight, as in your eyes, because you have to have the sight to see the world in the real light that it really is, because the world we've been shown through the all these institutions in organized society is not the real world, as we all know. So that's why I'm also not afraid to throw in our current situation, exposing what the dark occultists are doing and seeing the world with the right eyes, because it's all connected. You can't unconnect this, because we're talking about the lost chapters of our history that have been, held back from us. We don't understand a lot of our origins or anything. So it's just that's the documentary in a quick nutshell.
Right. So in North America, at least, it seems like there's this network of mounds. It's not just a single sort of site, and they're not disconnected from one another. There has to be some kind of a networking effect. And a lot of people point to these ley lines and different geometric earth structures that are related to the energies that these mounds sort of tap into. And, it's no different in England. You've got the same kind of mound structures that they've built on top of, especially the, different Avebury tours and all these other things. They're very heavily connected to another way of seeing things. And, again, that's the importance of why you're calling it a site and not just a site, because you have to have the eyes to see what these materialist, physical only type scientists aren't looking at. They don't really understand this stuff, and anytime they need to, especially, we were just talking about the pyramids, they'll switch over into a mystical mindset just because they can't explain what they're looking at. And so it might be a machine, but they don't want to say it's a machine, so it must have been a spiritual thing. So metal handles then become something about a ritual type thing instead of a machine, which the rest of the site actually points to. Some kind of ancient technology. And I think that's what we're missing, is the connection to our ancestors' ancient technology. And understanding that might help us free ourselves, or it might take down the control network that's been in place for a long, long time now. What do you think about that?
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, are these not maybe the most important questions we should be asking is about our ancient past? Because they don't want us to know our ancient past, because it puts the real truth out there of where we came from, who we really are. And of course, it keeps us in this giant plantation of paying to exist in human slavery, when we realize that, we're much greater than what they've shown us to be. And, if you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going. And I consider these the most important questions of why we're not free, because we are being held back by these dark occult groups who invert everything natural and enslave us. And, that's something that I cover a lot in this part of the documentary, is about the ancient cover up. I mean, because they've tore out chapters of our history, and we're supposed to believe that we've only been around, civilization's only been around since 6,000 years ago. Then we have all these anomalous things, like we have giant we have giants in our past, elongated skulls. I mean, just look at some of these crazy non-human looking petroglyphs and geoglyphs. I mean, those things on the planet may, it's like a much more diversified Earth we had. And I don't think Homo sapiens shared this planet. But I mean, I think they share this planet with a lot more than we're said to believe. And you could possibly dismiss those petroglyphs in places like Grand Gallery, Utah, as indigenous on psychedelics. But my thinking is people usually drew what they saw, and something happened there. And we're just, I don't know, we've been like quarantined. I hate that word quarantine now. We all do, but we've been quarantined off from a much more amazing and crazier past. This Earth is so much crazier than we think than our everyday life of going to work and coming home and making dinner and watching TV. So, and that's just always been my hopes with this, everything I do with this show, the documentaries, just to show people like the world's a lot more than you're being shown.
Absolutely. And I think, getting the understanding of the ancient world helps us bring about an understanding in ourselves, because, as we know, our brains are not, maxed out to capacity. We've got a lot more functionality in there that probably goes into the ancient teachings that we haven't been given yet. And we're not supposed to be given them, because how do they maintain their control if we do have them? And one of the things I think is funny, if you think about society like a layer cake, right? Mm-hmm. Every previous sort of social contract is laid on top of the other one, so that there's never really any way of getting rid of the same families that seem to rule after every revolution. I think it's very important to get down to those base layers so that we can figure out what's going on above them. Because if you look at the Phoenicians, for example, my big thing now is looking at the comparisons between Carthage and America. And you've got names like McCartney in Wales and England, and that comes from Carthage. McCarthy is a Carthaginian name. You've also got Cartagena. Cartagena in Spain was a Carthage outpost. And so the way that they set up their governance structure is identical with the way our governance works today. And you could say maybe it didn't start out like that, but then you find out about the Society of the Cincinnati, where you've got all of these old world families ruling the country in the shadows. And if you don't know about the Society of the Cincinnati, it got started in 1783, the same time as the signing of the Constitution. And if you look at the signing of the Constitution, it doesn't look like they actually ratified it correctly. So what are we actually dealing with? And so you've got every president becomes a member of the Society of Cincinnati upon being elected.
I didn't know about that much. Wow.
Right. But that's how the Carthaginians ran their government. Their Senate was ruled by ancestral families that would then be, if they couldn't reach a deal with the court systems, they would throw it down to the House, which was commoners. They didn't have a kingship. They had a republic oligarchy. And that's kind of what we have today, is a republic oligarchy, which is not what we signed up for, I guess, in the Constitution. But you find out about these different societies. What else do you call it? It's an oligarchy.
It is. And we get all of our blueprints of civilization. I mean, Sumerians who came out of nowhere. Like all of a sudden they have writing, they have laws, and pretty much our government system is kind of based on how they had kings, but we still do. They just, have the government do all their work. But we get the same blueprint of society from way back, and because it worked on controlling the people, and it continues to work. And, I think we're forever they're just forever recycling the same formula, really. It just varying degrees, but yeah.
My favorite hieroglyph from the Egyptians is the word Netjer, Netjer. And Netjer is a flag, and it means the gods. The gods are a flag. And nature could also be where we get our term nature. So human nature is to worship these flags as a god. And then you kind of understand where we're at, because it's all about the cult flag that so if you're gonna apply Egyptian mythology to today, you look at the United Nations buildings and you see a bunch of gods that people worship because they're propped up in front of them. And that's just human nature. And that's kind of what you have all over the world, is all of these different little franchises of control.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. I mean, I can go by, I live here in Hawaii, so I can go by just the Polynesian Cultural Center. And if you look at all the flags of all those cultures, they're all either British monarchy or red and white. And you can take that back to, well, the Knights of Malta, for example, the red and the white. Like if you look at the Tongan flag, as it's one of the smallest nations in the world, it has the exact same symbol as the Knights of Malta, or it's just the British monarchy, or they went all over. And people worship these flags. They put in the back of every single, presidential briefing. You got the American flag. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
How many of these countries are ruled by law of the sea? And it's law of the sea that was developed by the Canaanite Phoenicians, Carthaginians. They came up with that basic legal framework, and it's been in use ever since they came out with it. Because before that, they were Canaanite Phoenicians, they were Minoans. The Minoans actually started the Canaanite Phoenicians. So, I mean, you take it all the way back into history. These guys were the ones exploring the planet. The Carthaginians sailed all the way around Africa. And just recently, they had a test where they took a Carthaginian trireme and tried to sail it across the ocean, and it made it just fine.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have any problems making those trips.
No.
They were highly advanced. So when we're talking about the spread of culture across these different continents, it shouldn't be ruled out that these people were really good at keeping secrets.
Oh, yeah. I just had a guest on my show. We just talked about it, that Captain Cook and Christopher Columbus, both being 33rd degree Freemasons, when they went and found all these spots, they were just remapping the earth from previous maps. These people had been around. They knew what they were looking for. I mean, I live in Hawaii, the most isolated island chain in the world. You miss that by a few notches, you're going straight up to Alaska. To find
Easy.
here, yeah, to find here is, or any of these South Pacific islands, is pretty hard. And they knew, suddenly found Australia, New Zealand, Captain Cook, that is, Tahiti, Hawaii, all these spots you could miss so easily. Easter Island. Actually, no, he didn't find Easter Island, but the Dutch found Easter Island. But still, like, to find all these little tiny dots, just to, they already knew what they were looking for. They came here to rape the minds of these people, I think.
Well, that could be a part of it too, is these ancient technologies of the mind associated with magic and these mound sites and all the rest of that stuff. You could really enhance somebody's remote viewing abilities. And if that's how they're doing, the mapping back then, that would make a lot of sense. I mean, especially if you look at the 1580s, they've got a perfect map of Antarctica. They shouldn't have that, according to, popular history. They never came in contact with it by then. So,
you ever think about how we had maps that old? I mean, I don't know. It's like, would you walk this? Like, how'd you get an aerial view? Like, you have to, sometimes I even question, like, how the fuck did people even know what the places look like?
Maybe they didn't really burn the Library of Alexandria. Maybe it was confiscated by somebody.
Yeah.
That's where we get the maps from.
Vatican Library now, probably. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. These cultures have gone around. I mean, talking about North America, you mentioned North America, going into places and taking the giant bones. That's a big one. The Smithsonian, taking the, probably, I don't know if they dug up the mounds or not, but there's that story of, it's not come to mind, the Grand Canyon.
I got a story.
What's that guy's name?
In Michigan,
go ahead.
there are 10,000 mounds that they excavated, and all of the material, all of the artifacts for that is just sitting in the basement of a university, Michigan University, just sitting there. Nobody's even looked at them yet.
Right. I had a lady on my show, and she's on the documentary, Heather Arnold. She is investigating the giants of Aruba, and they have one of the giant skeletons in the basement on one of the islands in a museum, but it's in this little closed spot, so you never look at it. But they confiscated this stuff, hid it. They don't want us to know this, and they've gone all over. When they went on the Crusades, these occult groups, part of their mission was to take away the knowledge of the ancients, and of course brainwash them, kill them. I mean, all that. It wasn't just one mission. I think there was multiple reasons why they went to these places and did what they did.
Right. I mean, I hate to bring up Christianity, but it seems like that was the goal, is to get rid of all that ancient knowledge, go everywhere and try and convert them, get rid of their memory system,
Right. They went around and so when I here in Hawaii, finding these spots, it pisses off modern academia, archaeologists. It pisses off even the Hawaiians, because they consider themselves to be the first people here. But there are some people that believe in the sunken continent of Mu when the ocean was lower. And that's what we're talking about here. And so I I don't care who I'm offending. Truth needs to be told. And it doesn't matter. It's just like, that's the mission I've been on for years. It's just like, I don't really care who gets pissed off. If the truth shows itself, it needs to be known. Like, why should we be hiding behind all this? Oh, we can't talk about that because it breaks paradigms. And that's what I'm here for.
It breaks generational curses. I mean, that's all you could call it. By erasing all this memory, we could be so much further ahead than we are right now. And they have to keep us in that box.
Yeah.
It's insane. Think about the Antikythera device.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Just fell off a boat. And then you've got this ancient computer, and they're like, oh, but it doesn't actually work that well.
Right.
Really? You're telling us that?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just stuff we've been shown too. Like, just think about what we haven't been shown. Stuff in closets, stuff in vaults. I mean, I know a lot of people go, oh, well, I bet I would love to raid the Vatican Library, but could you read any of that stuff?
Right.
Yeah. But still, we need to know this stuff. I mean, look, we're just like floating. When you're in a place where you don't have the coordinates to everything, you're lost. And when you're lost, you're controlled. And that's what they're doing. They're controlling us because we're a lost species. We don't understand where we came from, what we're here for, what our powers are. Like you said, 10% of our brain, that's all we use. 3% of our DNA. We're unconnected. And that's perfect recipe to control people, enslave them. I mean, just people like us are at least asking questions, but a lot of people don't even care. They don't even care. They're not even curious.
Perfect example. I was watching the opening of a time capsule that was inside the Robert E. Lee statue when the SJWs took it down.
Oh, wow.
They opened this thing up, and she's picking through all these documents, and then she finds a postcard from the Knights Templar. And she immediately audibly says, oh, no. She did not want to find that, because now there's something they have to explain live on video. Why are the Knights Templar sending out postcards in the time of Robert E. Lee? What's going on with that?
Making a statement.
Right?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
They're sending their memes out.
Exactly. And so it couldn't be any more obvious that all of this stuff has just been so blatantly covered up. And I don't think they say we're entering this information age, but all I see is them priming these new tools that they have for new forms of censorship, new forms of divide and conquer. I think that's why it's more important than ever to, get involved and actually look up the people who claim to be influencers in this arena. You'll find that a lot of them are just totally inauthentic.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And we do spend way too much time on social media too. Like, think about all the time we could be spending reading things versus, like, we have all the information in the world almost on these phones. And what do people do? They look at pictures of themselves and their family or your friends doing dumb shit. And meanwhile, we have access to the most information we've ever had access to. I'm not saying everything's on the internet, because I think we have to read books still. That's what I think. But yeah, we could be doing a lot more with all this. And they got us distracted. I see, AI coming in as, it's like Elon Musk was against AI supposedly, and now he's just pushing it
Supposedly.
in his way. Yeah, right. They're all just doing that. Like, it's just like they're putting it in either way. Oh, the fake alternative media is what I've been calling it, because they are putting in all this stuff that everybody is resisting, but because it's coming from them, that people on the questioning side are like, oh, okay, I guess it's okay. But
Yeah, and we're just now starting to see the infrastructure come into play. So they haven't
yeah,
yet begun to fight on that. And there's so much money wrapped up in the idea of censoring shit off the internet that you got to find your tribes. We got to start thinking like a tribe,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so, like, I think it's pretty obvious now. Like, when you get Trump never talked about putting Stargate in his campaigns, or acquiring Greenland. But then those are the things the second day he's in, he signs Stargate. Like, yeah, this is the real agenda. And I don't know. This alternative media has been hijacked for sure. Like, there's people like us that are true, authentic people, but there's a lot of people that are in there that, I mean, I don't mean to go off on this tangent, but it's just like, it's true. There's a lot of people in there that are fooling a lot of people that are questioning, especially since COVID, because a lot of people woke up from that time and they're just hungry now, but they're easy to get with all these other smaller, I guess you could say, psyops.
Right. But I mean, once people realize that everything that's going on in politics has been the most choreographed, well manicured show in the history of mankind, it starts to become a little bit more obvious that you have to go back before these people and you have to find out what they're trying to hide, because that's where the real power is.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the cover up's deep because, like, for example, Gobekli Tepe, I touched on the documentary. They planted olive trees over the site and they halted large scale excavation for the next 150 years. And who did that? Members of the World Economic Forum. But so, like, they don't want people to possibly dig up the oldest temple in the world, and what they might find something, the cover up goes into also this place in Indonesia, that pyramid they found, Gunung Padang, same people covering it up. They don't want people digging in Giza. I mean, and that's just that stuff. But the smaller things too, just finding, like here in Hawaii, if you find some bones, you got to report it immediately. Little things like that. This cover up's all over, and it may not be the biggest thing that they're trying to focus on, but if you look, they've been keeping us from knowing all this forever. So it is really one of the biggest things.
Well, I got a good example of that. So they found non-human mummies in South America,
Yeah,
with 3 fingers. And what they have confirmed is that these are non-human mummies. And I think that's as much disclosure as we're going to get, because I don't think they're interested in studying that anymore.
were they the elongated skull ones?
Elongated skull,
Yeah.
and 3 fingers.
Yeah,
And they confirmed that these were not human. They
Right.
didn't have the same DNA as us. So who did the mummifying, and what's going on with the alien creatures that we know are now mummified on the planet? They didn't say that it wasn't native, but it was not a human creature. So
Right. And
what
in
is
Malta,
that?
when I went to Malta, they have elongated skulls, no sagittal suture here. They're not what we know of as humans. And I had what's his name? Brian Forster on my show about 3 years ago. And he said, yeah, we carbon dated those elongated skulls in South America, and they date back to only about 2,000 years ago. So only about 2,000 years ago, this Earth could have been quite a bit more different than we think it was, with different types of beings walking around. I mean, who knows what they were.
Studying the Bible and ancient cultures and listening to what they have to say about religion and how they saw the world, it was so much different than what we expect. And the rituals and everything else is just, it's fascinating how it influences today's mind. Like, have you ever heard of why they call it ostracism?
No.
The Athenians voted on these shards of pottery called ostracons. And these ostracons, they would etch people's names into. But after they would ostracize them and they'd have to leave, they would use these ostracons for anal hygiene. This is where we get the idea of smearing somebody's name.
Oh, wow.
And it fully survives in this ancestral memory. And so we've got all these terms we use, but we have no idea where it comes from.
Right. Well, that is getting ostracized. Smear campaign.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
It's so weird how the proportions add up.
I know. Someone wrote in the chat here, the Chinese pyramids. So that's a great example of that too. They bury them on purpose. So one of the people that's in my documentary, his name is Mike Collins. He goes around the world. He's a YouTuber. Maybe you guys have seen him. I don't know. He just films all this stuff. But when he went to the caves in China, I think they're called the Yangview caves, the Chinese government purposely etched in new carvings on the wall to replace basically what was there. So it's not just like an agenda that spans a few countries. It's worldwide. So it just shows you how big of a cover up it is. I mean, everywhere you go.
What I like to remind people of is that Antarctica is where all of these countries get along in perfect harmony. We're supposed to believe that they're going into wars against each other up here and then just getting along perfectly down there. You know how many missile systems you could put in from Antarctica?
Oh, yeah.
That's why they had the Antarctic Treaty, is because they didn't want it militarized, because then you could hit anybody on the planet.
You know what I realized is we already pretty much have a world government. Look what happened during COVID. Everybody was on the same page, reading the same song sheets. I mean, it's not like there was really any resistors. Like, there was 2 or 3 African countries that weren't on the same page. One guy, leader, he's like, "Oh, we don't need your vaccine," or whatever. And yep, he gets dies of a heart attack. So yeah. This is a whole illusion game of country against country. We already have everybody on the same page. Antarctica is a perfect example of that. Absolutely.
Right. And you find them doing these human sacrifice rituals, which is war, because they don't need to do it. Nobody needs. Right. I mean, what's going on right now between all these different nations is not an accident. It's deliberately caused so that they can get rid of the population. Mm-hmm. And they all kind of play on the same side. None of them ever die in these wars, No, not for 75, 80 years, Not a single one.
Just the order followers, the same people that continue to tell you what to do when all these false flags happen. The same, the people that just don't have, it's like they don't have a soul of their own, because they don't have a will of their own. So they can always get more goons. That's the problem. It's like, those are the people I've always said we got to wake up, but it's a really tough job. They're extra mind controlled, and they're part of the ritual.
Blackmail is nothing new. Blackmail is a super, super old technology that's been working ever since then. And it's only recently that we've started to ask the questions, who is blackmailing who here?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a whole world of blackmail, isn't it? Everywhere. I mean, it goes down to local levels of politics or Hollywood or everything. Everybody's blackmailed. Everybody's got some dirt on somebody, and that's how they keep it in check on that level. And then they got their order followers, and yeah, they got a pretty good system going on there. I have to say, they are pretty smart. They're not intelligent, but they're smart.
Right. Yeah. I think of Janus, right? So Janus, the Roman god with the two faces, sort of represents what we've been given ever since Roman times. It's like you've got the public face and then you've got the private face. And as long as we keep those two separate, we can rule everything we touch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
It is.
Well, this has been a great episode. Thank you for joining me. I think we went all over the map. Is there anything you want to plug, your movie, your books?
Yeah, so Sacred Site is only on Rumble right now. It's going to be a docu-series. It's there's a streaming service that might pick it up, so I had to yank it off YouTube. But I'm blacklisted anyway on there, so it wasn't going anywhere anyway. And I'm not sure if a streaming service will take it or not, because I'm talking about stuff that they probably don't like, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And so right now you can catch the theatrical version, I call it, on my Rumble channel, which is Chant It Down Radio or Chant It Down Radio. And then the director's cut is on my Patreon at the moment, but soon enough, the docu-series is going to have 2 episodes that have all the footage from all over the world. And I will just give a quick little shout out or a little show of who's in it, just so people might want to see some of these names you may have never heard of. But let's see: Triffin of Unlocking the Code podcast, Seb Bland, Zach Royer, Mike Collins, Nikiana Jones, Ole Demigard, William Ramsey, Sean McCann, Paul Wallace, Bob Tuskin, Heather Arnold. So that's the people that are in it. A very eclectic group of voices. I wanted that on purpose, so people aren't just getting one perspective, but a variety, so they can kind of go, oh, what's this person's work and what's that person saying? And my podcast is Chant It Down. I've been doing it 12 years now, and it's just a continuation of everything I've been shown to do, how this world works. And I've had Nick on a while back, doing maybe a couple of years ago now. It's been
It was like maybe my first year podcasting. It was early for me. I mean, I know you're an OG. You've been around for a hot minute now. But.
Well, now I am. It's crazy how time flies, though.
12 years, you said, right? That's crazy.
Yeah, 12 years. Yeah, so yeah, that's where you can find me. Chant It Down on Instagram. We kind of went all over the place. It's good because this information really is. It's like you can't just. Yeah, it's the ancient past, but it's everything we know. I mean, it's, the reason the world is the way it is.
It's also good self-defense too, because I think when people realize that they really can't trust anything that's coming out of that system, they start to focus on what they can do to help themselves and their communities out. That's a huge issue. We got to get back into the mode of thinking outside of these machines. It's not helping us.
Yeah, it's not. No, it's not. It's good for people to listen to podcasts like this. It's good for people to start talking to people. I'll be honest. I'm pretty discouraged over the years, especially since COVID. I was very disappointed in humanity. But the people that shine, and those are the people that are my friends and the people that are trying to say something and understand the world we're really living in. So that's all I can say. Hopefully we get somewhere.
Absolutely.
Good. Yeah.
I almost forgot. I got to ask you about the Knights of Malta. Okay. Do you know how connected they were to the Kennedy assassination and all the rest of that? So you went to Malta. Did you actually see their temple there?
I did. Yeah, I didn't get to go. And so I was busy looking for the Grand Master's Lodge. I wanted to film that thing. Everybody I asked didn't even know what the hell I'm talking about. It's not because of the language barrier. They just didn't know. That they didn't know. So I wasted time doing that, and I mainly there to film the megalithic sites. So then my time was short there, and I didn't get to go in St. John's Cathedral, which I'm really kicking myself from because.
You've seen the pictures.
Yes, I've seen the pictures. Yeah.
Unbelievable artwork and just masterful architecture. Right. That place is like, it's stunning. And the Knights of Malta, they have diplomatic immunity in every country on the planet.
And they have a seat at the United Nations.
What? Isn't that a little bit too obvious?
No, they have their own
people. They can kill anybody they want to, anywhere in the world.
Oh yeah.
and just get away with it.
And their members aren't just religious Catholics. I mean, there are some pretty horrible people that have been involved in that. Like what's that British guy that was a molester and necrophiliac? Damn it. Can't remember his name, but just people like that are like, those aren't devout Catholics. You know?
Oh,
There's
you're
some-
talking about the guy from England who was friends with Prince Chomo. Yeah. Knights of Malta.
Prince, who's that? Prince Chomo. Oh,
Prince Charles.
yeah, Prince Charles.
He's a diddler too.
Yeah, he is.
I got to bring a little JJ,
Jimmy Savile.
You know?
Jimmy Savile. That's
Savile.
it. Yeah. He's in Knights of Malta. Actually, I had William Ramsey on my show a little bit ago, and he was showing and discussing about the whole Trump cabinet's full of Knights of Malta members. So, you know.
In terms of insane religious organizations, the one that can get away with murder has got me worried.
Yeah. That's a high level one.
Yeah. And nobody talks about it. Isn't it funny? I've never heard Alex Jones say a word about the Knights of Malta or the Society of Cincinnati. Huh.
Right.
Or the Cosmos Club.
Right. Or the Pilgrim Society. I've never heard him talk about that.
Right? Nope.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Just World Economic Forum in Bilderberg. None of the actual decision makers, you know.
No.
But yeah, we'll end it there. Thank you for joining us. Thanks
for having me on.
Headless Giant Podcast. We'll see you again next time.
Thanks, guys.
Later.